I was initially considering looking at the Caledonian Railway 72 class today, but decided to put her on the back burner for now, and instead look at something else that's been in my queue for ages, in the form of a small tank engine from the Great Western Railway. The GWR 1361 class was released for TS Classic in December 2023, having been developed by Caledonia Works, and it's available on CW's website for £17. That's close to the limits of how much I'm prepared to pay for a TS add-on, and while I can understand if people think 17 quid is a bit expensive for a tank engine, I would argue that the 1361 still presents much better value for money than some of Armstrong Powerhouse's enhancement packs. There are a few EPs, such as the Class 158 and 159 with Cummins engines, that cost more than £17, so do with that information what you will. The 1361s were a class of 060 saddle tank locomotives designed by George Jackson Churchward and built at Swindon Works in 1910, with a total build-out of only 5 locomotives. They were designed with a short wheelbase for shunting in dockyards, or other places where curves were too tight for larger locomotives. These happened to be the final saddle tank engines built by the GWR. Churchward based the 1361's design on the ex-Cornwall Mineral Railway 1392 class, which resulted in the newer engines being a strange combination of outdated elements, like Allen valve gear and saddle tanks, with newer Swindonised elements, such as the cab and bunker design. Apparently, the reason why this class had saddle tanks, instead of pannier tanks, was due to the use of a round-topped firebox. Initially, the 1361s were based in Plymouth, where they worked alongside the older 1392 class. As the years went on, they could also be seen working in places such as St Blaise and Morswater in Cornwall, Taunton and Bridgewater in Somerset, and Swindon in Wiltshire. One example was even trialled on the Weymouth Harbour Tramway in 1949. All 5 members of the class remained in service long enough to join the British Railways fleet in 1948, but as diesel shunters, such as the Class 03, entered service, work for the old saddle tanks dried up. The final examples were withdrawn in 1962, but one member of the class, namely 1363, has survived into preservation. She is now based at the Didcot Railway Centre in Oxfordshire, but has been out of action for overhaul since 2014. The nearest thing to scenarios that you get with the 1361 class is a selection of quick drive consists, which require the GWR Wagon Pack 1 and Tanker Wagon Pack 1 from CW's website. As for any suitable routes on which you could run this locomotive, one that immediately comes to mind is Great Western Levels 1902 from Golden Age Developments. Alternatively, you could run the 1361 on routes like the Falmouth branch, Riviera Line in the 50s, or GAD's Dorset Coast, which includes the Weymouth Harbour Tramway. This little saddle tank was one of the first times I remember seeing a CW product that made use of SimNation's Locomotion 2.0 scripting, but she wasn't the first locomotive to use Locomotion 2.0. The 1361's features include, but are not limited to, numerous cab camera views, a customizable head coat arrangement with period-accurate lamps, a realistic, fully functional cab, 3D firebox and coal, fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, fluctuating water level depending on the route gradient, realistic regulator and steam chest simulation, cab lighting effects, a custom auto fireman toggled with Control R, performance mode toggled with Shift P, and a simple mode which is toggled with Control A and makes the locomotive a little bit easier to drive by removing the reverser lock and a steam chest simulation. You can also open the cab side doors and fold down the seats, but the windows in the front and back cannot be opened. As for the livery selection, this is as follows: GWR 1910 to 1923, GWR 1923 to 1934, GWR 1934 to 1942, two variants of GWR 1942 to 1948 in clean or weathered states, BR Black with the early crest in clean or weathered states, and BR Black with the late crest in clean or weathered states. I know full well that the 1361s were not intended for passenger services, but I was still curious to see just how fast one of them could go, so I conducted a test run from Teignmouth to Dawlish with locomotive number 1364 hauling 3 concertina coaches. During this run, I got the locomotive up to an absolute top speed of only 28.5 miles per hour. For reference, her ideal fire mass is 555 to 565 pounds on the F5 heads-up display, and now that I think about it, the cylinders on this engine remind me of those on number 24 Galloping Gertie. In closing, I am of the opinion that the Great Western Railway 1361 class is A. easy to get confused with the 1366 class, and B. a decent little engine that I would recommend to TS Classic players if they like small shunters, or GWR locomotives in general. But if your preference lies with bigger and faster locomotives, then CW has you covered on that front as well. In the end, I think I'll give Churchward's little 060 saddle tank a 7 out of 10, and if you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win a device to catch animals from the water that also had numerous hit songs in the 1970s. It's the Fishing Rod Stewart.